Hi, my name is Sheila Karuna. Welcome to A Soul's Journey by Peter Richelieu. You will find each chapter numbered successively. It will be its own standalone video, and they will also be in a playlist. I wanted to, since this is the preface and the prologue video, I wanted to take a moment to share with you the synchronicities behind how I received this book. Um, it all started by receiving an email from a viewer that had been uh, apparently taking part in my videos um, on another channel that has since been censored by YouTube. Um, it was so interesting because it came to me in the form of a PDF with an accompanying AI voiceover. And I knew immediately when once I started reading it with my housemate here that I was to record this book. That's kind of what happens for me. It's something just kind of takes over, and I know I'm supposed to do that. At any rate, there are many other, I have since learned, folks reading this or using AI to create videos of this book. But each time I read a book that has had a large impact on me, I glean more from that book. And so this is something that we uh, my housemate and we conduct book class, not classes, but it's like a book club where we all get together and read a book that we feel very drawn to, and we kind of have conscious conversations along the way. And so this will be my third or fourth time actually reading the book. It has had that large an impact on myself, and I wish to thank the viewer that actually sent me this physical book because I didn't have that at first. When this book came to me in PDF form, I try as I might, I couldn't find a physical book. I went to Amazon. There was no physical book at Amazon at that time. I went to abebooks.com. There wasn't a used book there. I looked everywhere I could, and this book was not available to me. Now, fast forward about a month or so after that, once we began uh, actually our book club, all of a sudden these books started to appear, which I find very interesting. One of our book club members is located in the UK, and the only one she was able to find was in French. Luckily for her, she speaks French, and so it wasn't just me here in the United States having that same issue. So I find that, again, a little interesting to me. And this book was originally experienced in the 40s, written the first time in the 50s under a different name. It was written, not the author, but the title. It was originally published in South Africa as From the Turret, and it was published by Graphic Stationers and Publishers, Durban. And it was then published by the Aquarium Press in 1989. And this edition was published by Thorson's in 1996. So it's very interesting to me, as I said, how this, and by the way, that viewer simply sort of disappeared. We corresponded once or twice in email, and we just really haven't been in each other's orbit since, which I find, again, very interesting. So I'm going to begin here. There's actually a quote from the Bhagavad Gita on the very first page. As a man casts off old clothes and puts on new ones. So the embodied self, casting off old bodies, proceeds to other and new ones. And again, that's from the Bhagavad Gita, which is a centuries old, I think millennia actually old text from India. So we begin with the preface. In spite of the fact that I am no writer and claim no gifts or experience in that direction, this book is given to the world without apology, for I am carrying out orders from those who must be obeyed. The part of the book which will hold the interest of the largest number of readers is that which begins at chapter 4. For those people who have no recollection of their life and activities during sleep, even this part will contain many completely new ideas. As many of these call for explanation, readers are advised to avoid the temptation of skimming quickly through the preliminary chapters in order to reach this one more quickly. These introductory chapters, which are written in the form of talks by a Hindu guru, are so filled with vital information that they hold the key not only to what follows in the book, but to what happens to us all at one time or another. Those who read them slowly and carefully, and who refer to them often, will glean the most general information and acquire the best groundwork for the appreciation of the story which follows. In writing down my experiences, I have added no embellishments. If these experiences help a few of you to understand the scheme of life and so be comforted, if they give you an insight into the nature of evolution and provide you with a reason for making friends of animals, they will not have been written in vain. And now the prologue that was written by the author Peter Richelieu. It was the 7th of July, 1941, and I was still brooding over a cable I had received from the War Office in London 3 days before, telling me that Charles, my dear young brother, had been killed in action over England. He was only 23, more than a year before had joined the RAF, which is the Royal Air Force, and qualified as a pilot. Of course, we were proud of him. Who would not want to join the RAF if he were 21 years of age, fit as a fiddle, and eager to do his bit for the old country? Naturally, we knew that the life of a pilot was precarious, but somehow it did not seem that anything could happen to him. People are often like that with those they love, and Charles and I had always been closer to each other than ordinary brothers, although there was a difference of 10 years in our ages. I remembered the first time he proudly told us that he had downed his first enemy plane. The initial shock from the news of Charles's death was severe, and now, for the first time in my life, I felt bitter against the powers that be, the beneficent Creator who is talked of so glibly. How could he be beneficent if he allowed the innocent to be killed? I had been brought up a Catholic, not a very strict one, perhaps, and I had taken many things for granted in the way Christians do. Religion was part of one's life, and on certain days time had to be given to it. At other times one did not think very much about what was expected of a Christian, a follower of Christ. Now I thought about these things for the first time, and I did not feel that I wanted to go to church, certainly not to a priest. I did not want to pray. Why should I? God had taken away from me the dearest thing I possessed in the world. And although I did not curse God, I certainly came very near to hating him. A friend had told me that Charles was well out of this war, that the next world was most certainly a better place than this one at the moment, and that I should be thankful, but I was not thankful. I had so much looked forward to seeing his cheery face and hear his hearty laugh at his next leave, which we had arranged to spend together. Now the future was blank. It was in just this mood that I sat on the never to be forgotten morning a few weeks ago, the day he came. Although now, judging from the change which has taken place in me, it seems as if it could all have taken place in a former existence, yet I can remember every detail and shall until I die. I shall try to tell the story just as it happened, but if the recording seems to be disjointed, you must forgive me, for I have never tried to write a story before, and only do so now because I want others to be comforted, even as I was comforted. About 11 o'clock on that morning there was a knock at the door, and my servant told me that there was a man in the hall who wished to see me. What sort of man? I asked. His reply was, "A strange man, master. I think perhaps he came to beg." I told the boy to go down and inquire what this man wanted, and to come back to let me know. On his return, he said that the man had a message which could only be given to me, so with some irritation, I told him to bring the man up. Even though I have seen this man very often since then, I still find it difficult to describe him, but I shall do my best. He was tall, slim, about 45 years of age, and wore a beard. He was unmistakably a native of northern India, though his skin was almost as white as mine. He was dressed in a simple Indian costume made of material so indiscriminate of color that at first sight one might have thought it was dirty, but on closer inspection one saw that it was spotlessly clean. His feet were encased in sandals, and he wore a turban. I told the boy to go and asked my visitor to sit down. He sat down, not on the chair that I indicated, but cross-legged on the carpet. It was then that I noticed the benevolent expression of his eyes, which seemed to contain the wisdom of the ages. So far he had not spoken. "Well," I said, "what can I do for you?" He seemed surprised at the question and took a few seconds to answer it. "You sent for me," he said. This was too much for me, so I replied, "What on earth do you mean? I have never set eyes on you before, so I am likely to have sent for you? Come on, tell me what you want, for I have work to do." "You sent for me," he repeated, and I suppose the surprise I felt must have been evident in my expression, for he smiled and continued, "Have you not just lost your brother? Is not it true that you have been asking many questions of a hidden providence, whom you accuse of being instrumental in taking your brother from you? Have not you said many times, why should such things be? Why should he be taken and not others? What is the use of believing in a God when you cannot ask him questions and get from him the answers to those questions which mean so much to you? For the last 3 nights, when you have slept, you have dreamt that you have been talking to your brother. You have been talking to him. You have asked these questions and many others during these hours of fitful sleep. I am the answer to these questions. I am the messenger who has been sent to make these things clear to you. For did not Christ say, "Ask, and it shall be given to you, knock, and it shall be opened unto you"? You have asked, you have knocked, and it now rests with you whether you still wish to have the answers you have so often clamored for. Wanted to make sure I didn't leave the prologue because I did that once before. Of course, I want to hear the answers to my questions, I said. But who are you? And how do I know that what you can tell me wait a minute, how do I know that you can tell me what I want to know? Surely you are a man, the same as I, alive and in the flesh, yet you talk of knowing my brother, of talking to him, of hearing me ask the very questions that I have asked. Is this magic or am I dreaming? Convince me if you can. You'll find me a good listener. Uh, Not very credulous, I'm afraid, but as you seem to know so much about me already, I'll listen to what you have to say. Then he said, I'm afraid it will take some time to make you understand, but if you're willing to spare the time, I will come for you an hour or two most days until my story is concluded. I cannot promise that you will be convinced by all I have to tell you, but I can promise that at least you will be happier than you are now. So for that reason alone, perhaps the time will not be entirely wasted. Is 11 o'clock each morning suitable for you? I said, oh yes, rather wondering what I had let myself in for, but at the same time feeling that I could get rid of him after the first day if I found there was a catch in the thing. I looked up to carry on the conversation, but he had gone. There was no one there, although I had not heard the door open or shut. I began to wonder if I had dreamt it all, or whether my brain had become a little deranged, owing to worry and lack of sleep. I even sent for my servant and asked him if he had really brought a man up to see me. When he said he had, I asked if he had seen him go, but he said he had not, and resolutely denied that anyone could have left my room and gone out by the front door without his seeing him. That did not help, and I still wondered if it had been a dream. For somehow the statement of the boy that he had brought the man to me seemed unreal. I decided to wait for the morrow. 11 o'clock was the time he had fixed, and I was certainly going to be in my room at that hour to see whether he came or not. Oddly enough, I slept that night as I had not slept since I had received that fateful cable. When I awoke in the morning, I seemed to have been talking to Charles and telling him about my visitor. In my dreams, Charles did not seem to be at all surprised, and I woke with a certainty that my Indian friend would turn up as arranged. I decided I would ask him as soon as he arrived how he managed to go without being seen or heard. I suppose my door must have been ajar, for just at 11 o'clock a pleasant voice at my elbow said, well, do you still want those questions answered? I had not heard him come, but in a strange way was so reassured by his presence that I replied, certainly I am ready. Without any more casual conversation, he sat down on the floor. I leaned back in my chair, and he started to tell me the most amazing story I have ever heard. A story that even now I cannot fully understand, but one which rang true from the first word, a story which I feel will ring true for others who may read it. During all the days which followed, we had little conversation. He came just as he had done the first day. Sometimes he talked for an hour, sometimes longer, and when he had finished for the morning, he put the palms of his hands together in Eastern fashion and went away. I rather think he sensed when I had had enough. And I wanted to pause there and share that. I know that what it feels for me with my consciousness and now the puzzle pieces I've collected, I feel like this is the case for all of humanity. We allow in what our psyches can handle. When folks talk about the veils being thin, it's actually the veils in here. The veils really aren't out there, they're in here. And our psyches have put up different veils that may or may not be associated with our raising, our belief systems, our just the entirety of that. And some are thicker than others, right? And they're all very unique to each being. And so my housemate helped me see this when I was trying to share information with another being who wasn't ready for it. There, something happens, right? This is why when I have come to feel that when we try to give information to people who aren't ready for it, like a lot of people will say, it's time to rip the band-aid off and just tell everybody everything, and why can't they see it? That is why, because their psyche will not allow it yet. It's something that they're not prepared to accept into their reality. And it could be damaging because think of that. I mean, that is exactly how uh, damaged psyches are formed as children, actually, in part. And giving more than their psyches can handle can cause fractures and things to kind of go sideways, is my premise at the moment. So that's what I think this is meaning here. I rather think he sensed when I had had enough. When my brain, reeling with strange facts, had reached a stage at which it could take in no more. For I noticed that he sometimes finished suddenly and without a word of farewell left the room, to return the following morning, when, without any fresh introduction, he started to speak as if he had just finished the sentence with which his previous day's discourse was completed. And that's the end of the prologue, and chapter 1 is next.